to the Haunted Hangover podcast Minisode. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by my bud Chris.
Good afternoon.
Yes, it's afternoon currently. Usually I record this podcast at night, a rare afternoon recording.
Bright and sunny Sunday afternoon.
Bright and sunny, really sinister backdrop apparently to what we're going to be talking about, I guess. And that is the new Scream movie, Scream 2022, right? That's what you would call it?
Yeah. No, not Scream 5, not Still Screaming or Scream Again or any kind of corny title like that. It's just straightforward Scream.
Do you think it needed like a corny subtitle?
No. I mean, they never have had subtitles in the Scream franchise, so I don't think a number could have been just as good, but I guess in the sense that this is, and we'll dive into this, it's a requel, as they so lovingly call it within the movie itself. I guess because it's a requel, they wanted to stick with the, original title, because this is kind of the new original, and that's a big thing in horror movies nowadays too.
It is funny how the movie, it's kind of making fun of itself.
Very, very self-referential, which is what you come to expect from the Scream franchise anyway.
Yeah, but I feel like this one really leaned into
really heavy with
what
the
it actually
winking
is.
At the camera kind of stuff.
Now, Chris, you reminded me off air to say spoiler warning, because I'm notorious for forgetting to do that on the normal podcast, on everything we do. I always fucking forget. So
yes, well, so
spoiler warning.
Listen, if you have not seen Scream 2022, don't watch this video yet, because we're gonna break it down in its entirety. We're gonna spoil everything. We're gonna tell you who the killers are, what the killers are, what the motive is, where the killer is, all this stuff. We're breaking it all down. So spoiler alert. We'll give you a couple of seconds here.
Super spoiler warning.
Couple of seconds here to get out.
I've seen this movie before.
Not this movie.
You said we were gonna finish this. Go finish it, Sydney.
Scream.
I'll be right back.
He's dead.
But real quick, before we go into specific likes and dislikes, what were your overall thoughts on the movie? Did you enjoy it? Being a big Scream fan that you are, because I know you're a huge Scream fan.
Scream is my favorite horror franchise. My personal favorite horror franchise. And I've been looking forward to this one for a while, and it didn't disappoint me. I liked it. There was some stuff in there that I maybe didn't feel too fond about, but overall, I thought that this was a really solid installment and better than a couple of previous ones, in my opinion.
I dug it. It's definitely one of those movies that I feel I have to watch again to fully take in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like movies like this, and it's not because they're like these smart intellectual films, like the movie actually makes fun of those
elevated horror.
Elevated horror. It's not that type of movie, even though they mention it a lot in the actual film.
Yeah.
But I just feel like after, like, there's so much going on in the movie, like characters and people being killed and all this shit, that it takes a second viewing for me to really kind of take it all in.
Yeah.
I felt the same way about Halloween Kills, because when I first saw Halloween Kills and I left the theater, I was like, did I like that? Did I not like that? And I kind of, I enjoyed it, but when I recently rewatched it for the second time, I enjoyed it more the second time. And I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to enjoy this film the second time around. Like whenever it's streaming or, on something, I'll give it another watch. But let's jump into some of our likes and dislikes. We're not going to get into the plot like every nook and cranny here. More than likely you've seen the film if you're listening to this or
You're
watching
still
it.
here.
So yeah, I don't think we need to go into every detail. I wouldn't call this a deep cut, considering it's a brand new movie. And more than likely, if you listen to our show, you're checking this out just to hear our thoughts. Which, before we jump into likes and dislikes, I should say we've like Dave and I have never done this on the normal podcast with contemporary movies or movies that are current and coming out, but this is something I want to do kind of going forward for the new year. Now, we're not going to cover every horror film that comes out, but maybe some of the bigger ones. Chris and I will jump on here and talk for a few minutes, and I'll give my thoughts and Chris will give his thoughts. Maybe we'll have Dave on some. Maybe we'll have some other, Haunted Hangover
little rap sessions. Little
here.
Rap sessions.
Yeah, and just kind of talk about the movies. But yeah, let's jump into likes. Give me some of your likes. Give me 2 likes off the top.
I gotta say,
2022.
I really appreciated that this movie, you can absolutely tell, was made by fans of the franchise. Those guys in Radio Silence are obviously lifelong horror movie fans, Scream movie fans, Wes Craven fans, and that attitude and that love seeps through nearly the entirety of the movie. It's very obvious that this was made by fans for fans, and I think that was kind of my biggest like about the film. Is
I agree.
It felt like something that they were like, we're all in this together kind of thing, and we're making this for you, and it felt rewarding in that sense to watch it.
Yeah, I'm only familiar with them because of, what is it, Ready or Not?
Yeah, and Southbound, right?
And VHS. I think they had a segment.
VHS. So I mean, this is kind of their biggest movie to date.
They're horror fans, like you said.
Yeah,
they're big horror fans. You could tell. All they've made are horror films so far, and I've liked all the previous stuff they've done.
Yeah.
So I'm all for, like, it's cool that we're at a point now where like horror fans are making big horror movies in Hollywood. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah, I love that.
Especially as like a filmmaker and you're an actor too, like outside of doing this type of shit. Like, it's kind of cool to see that, just to see people that love these franchises like just being heavily involved in creating new installments or remaking or rebooting, whatever you call. So I totally agree. That's definitely a big like for me as well.
Absolutely.
What's another big like?
I think that it was, and now we're going to start getting into spoilers. It was smartly done the way they tied a lot of the legacy of Scream to this new film.
Yes.
From stuff that is like the big obvious stuff, like the main girl being the illegitimate daughter of Billy Loomis, like the big stuff like that. And then, I was looking through the cast list and the character names last night after we got home. And one of the characters in the film, her last name is Mackenzie.
Okay.
And so that, I mean, this is not necessarily canon, or, I may be reaching, but in the beginning of the very first Scream, when Drew Barrymore's parents get home, her dad tells the mom to drive down the block to the Mackenzies.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's pretty cool.
You could say that that's another, like, smaller Easter eggy kind of nod to the original. And I think that they did that well. They balanced the legacy of Scream well with the newer characters. I mean, there's a few, iffy kind of tenuous connections that I feel like didn't necessarily need to be there, but overall I think that the legacy of Scream was well represented in a franchise that's 25 years old at this point.
Yeah, that's another thing I agree with. That stuck out to me too, how they were able to kind of tie in all the older movies subtly. Yeah. It's not so down your throat. Like, they didn't have to like be so forceful with like you said, making references to other. It's more so for the fans. Like, you went on IMDb or whatever and you looked it up. You're like, oh, wow, look at the character's last name. It's a reference to Scream 1. Or I think because we had seen the movie together last night. Yeah. I think you mentioned that you saw like Tatum's.
Yeah. Little stuff like that I thought was really cool.
Rose McGowan's character from the first Scream, because she's Dewey's sister.
Right.
Like, you saw her, and I didn't even catch that, dude. Like, that's why I have to go back and watch it a second time.
Absolutely.
Because you mentioned that as soon as we got out of the theater. I was like, oh shit, I missed that entirely. Yeah. So I do like those little subtle
stuff, like when they name dropped Sydney's husband, whose first name was Mark, and the only other Mark in the Scream franchise is Pat Dempsey's character in Part 3. So it's fairly obvious that that's where they're going with that. I thought that was cool, and it like you said, it makes you want to rewatch it to pick up on more of that stuff, which I think is a good thing. Like, if you catch it all in one viewing, and then there's no reason to ever rewatch the movie again. So
Yeah, which is, again, when we left that whole thing with Mark, I did not pick up on that, which is why you're more of a Scream expert than I am. So,
I am.
Because I don't.
I'm the Randy Easter of Haunted eggs. Hangover.
There you go. Dude, those are 2 Easter eggs that went right over my head. I didn't even notice them until you pointed them out to me.
And then, like, during the opening, the first kill, which subverted the expectations and is not a first kill, the killer's on the phone, and he mentions that his name is Charlie, and Charlie was the name of the Culkin kid in Scream 4. So, I mean, like, it might be a little bit reachy, but these are kind of things that are probably...
It's definitely
some weight to them. Some weight to them.
There are definitely references to the previous films. And speaking of the previous films, and this is something I really liked about the movie, was the look of the movie itself. Like the cinematography, it was well shot. It has a really good look to it. The lighting. Because my biggest issue with Part 4, dude, I hated the way that movie looked.
It looks cheap and grainy.
Not even cheap and grainy. It had like this weird kind of like haze to it.
Yes.
Which I don't know if that was like an artistic thing they were trying to go for, but it didn't look anything like the previous 3 movies.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest.
There's like almost a gloss to everything.
And it was really bright and it was really sharp. And it was odd because the other 3 didn't have that look at all. I did not like that about the 4th movie, but I loved how in this one it kind of looks like it's in the same universe. It fits flawlessly.
Yeah, the aesthetic is much more.
3. It's definitely a more modern film. Yeah, it's a more modern film, but it had a really good look, especially those hospital scenes, dude. The lighting and the colors. I just love the way they looked. Another thing I liked, and this is big spoiler again, all the warnings. I like that they killed Dewey, dude.
Man, I'm gonna pour it out for my man Dewey.
Dude, they needed to kill one of them off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It raises the stakes. It raises the stakes, and Dewey. I mean, Sid's the final girl, but and this is my personal opinion, but of the 3 of them, Dewey is the most likable character. It makes the most impact to the audience that they kill off this affable, lovable guy that you can't help but root for. And in this movie particularly, he is very down in the dumps. He's living in a trailer. He's not the sheriff anymore, and you get this kind of hint that maybe he could turn it all around if he were to figure this case out. But that's not the way that it goes, and he bites the dust.
I thought the way they handled it was really well done because, like you said, he was kind of like living in what is like a trailer or something like that, and he's not with Gail anymore. And I love how it's almost like Ghostface reemerging sprung him back to life.
Yeah.
And he has that one scene with Gail where he's like, you find out that he left her for once, and how his life just kind of wasn't going the way he wanted it to at the time. And it's almost like he did it to protect her in a way, And I like that. And I do like how he puts up a fight when he dies.
Absolutely.
And he's doing it to like help the new characters. He basically sacrifices himself to let them get away, even though one of them was the fucking killer. But the main girl, I forget the character's name, I'll be honest. The main lead girl, I forget her character's name. Yeah, Sam. I should have remembered that for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Sam. But yeah, like, I just like how, and then he had to die by getting stabbed by 2 knives.
Right, because we know Dewey can get stabbed one time, and he keeps on kicking. It happens to him quite often.
In the movie, he even says, I've been stabbed 9 times.
Yeah.
So it's like the killer knew that they had to do something different to make sure my man was down. Like, that dude fucking was dead. He gets, like, stabbed, the knife goes up, and then stabbed again in the back. And same, like, he's dead.
He's no 100% dead. Yeah, he's not getting a resurrection in the next sequel.
There will be no Dewey faked his death in Scream 6. No. That won't be happening.
I mean, eventually it had to happen.
It had to. And I think they should keep that trend going. If they make 2 more sequels, kill Gail in the next one, then kill Sidney in the last one.
Yeah.
I think that's what they should do. Possibly, if they feel like it's worth it, dude. Because you know why? And this is I made this joke earlier to my fiance. I told her, I said, in 20 years they could do a Halloween 2018 and retcon all the sequels and just make a sequel to the first film.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just bounce 20 years. And honestly, dude, I could see them doing that because these actors aren't that old. Like in 10 or 15 years, they could make another one and they'll be like in their 70s if they really wanted to. Not saying that's what people want, but you never know.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I mean, I feel like they kind of, they already took some cues from the Halloween requel, 2018 Halloween requel. You know, the title, obviously, the same title as the first one. The Dewey kind of being the gruff older guy living in the trailer mirrors Jamie Lee Curtis's arc in Halloween 100%. A bit, like the off the grid kind of loner who knows that it's going to happen again, but nobody believes them kind of thing.
Yeah, it made sense, and like I said, going back to his whole death, it worked. And playing off of his death, what I do like is the movie did introduce some new characters that I did enjoy, and I almost wish they were in the film a little more. Like specifically, I really like the twins.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was an interesting touch to have a set of twins that are related to Randy, to Jamie Kennedy's character, and how they kind of like those are obviously his niece and nephew. Like they're witty and
they're very much like him. Yeah.
And I dug those characters, and it's funny because I was shocked. I was like, one of them is gonna die, but at the fucking end, they both survived, which is crazy.
There's a decent crop of kids that survived this time around.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought they were the two standouts to me, like that made, like they were the funniest characters. They had kind of the most to work with. They weren't like stereotypical. Like he wasn't just a jockey guy. He came off a little nerdy himself, just like his sister. So I really, really enjoyed those two characters. And I do like how like they had the one character's name was Wes for like Wes Craven. It was like an homage to him, which was really sweet. And I do like that. And they even played into it. I think at the party they're like for Wes, and at the very end for Wes.
Right.
So they based this character's name was Wes just to kind of
the love letter
to Wes Craven, which was a single tear was shed. Like that was a sweet thing. You had to do it.
You don't have to scream without Wes Craven. So,
and I was surprised they killed that actor. That
that kid. He's
pretty known.
Sort of a well-known. The Dylan Minnette, the kid from
his name.
Goosebumps and Don't Breathe and 13 Reasons Why. He's kind of a. If I had to say, I'd say of the new generation characters, he's probably the biggest well-known actor in that group.
Yeah, for sure. So it was when I thought like they were going to kill his mom with Judy, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Who's like the new sheriff. She was from part 4. I thought they would kill her and like he'd find her body and that's how that scene was going to end. So when he died, and he died brutally, he got stabbed in the fucking neck. I was like, whoa, I did not. I expected him to kind of be like the new Randy or something. But I was surprised that they killed him. So I think, and that plays into something I didn't like, which we'll jump into in a second. Some of the stuff we didn't like about the movie. But yeah, him dying, I was like, wow, it would have made more of an impact. And I guess I'll segue into something I didn't like. If they didn't kill. And we talked about this last night. It was the one of my. I don't have many gripes with the movie. I have one or two. If they didn't kill that Vince character, the creepy guy,
what was the an unnecessary character? Yeah,
yeah. Because I like that they didn't kill the girl in the beginning, Sam's sister.
Yes. The opening kill is not an opening kill, which I think is a great little twist on the franchise. 5 movies in.
I did, and I think it would have. The death of Wes and Judy would have been more impactful if they, instead of killing that Vince guy off, the dude from Jennifer's Body, I forget the actor's name, instead of killing him off, they could have just developed the characters a little more, and then one of the legacy characters from part 4, her and her son are killed. It would have been like flipping the opening kill in a way where it's like, okay, the girl in the opening scene didn't die, but we have this one character who you think is important, and she's killed because she's a survivor, and then her son is killed, and he's a well-known actor. It would have been like the reverse almost of Drew Barrymore, where you kill
in the opening
the most
5 minutes.
known. the most known actor amongst the teens first. You know, kill him first. But they didn't do that. And that whole Vince character, dude, his death sucked. He got like stabbed in the neck. It was like pointless.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand it from a plot perspective. It plays into the killer's scheme of making it look like it's all related to the past, because you get this name drop that Vince kid was the nephew of Stu Macher, Matthew Lillard's character from the first one.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, sure, we can say that the first Scream takes place over the course of, I don't know, a week, right? So you never are introduced to the family that Stu could potentially have had. You know, he's obviously got parents, but we never learned that Stu had a sister. Not that, you know, there's any line of dialogue where he'd just be like, my sister's going to be so mad at me. But it just, while I said earlier that, you know, a lot of the legacy ties were good, there were a couple of lamer ones. And I think that the Vince guy being the ultimate red herring of like, this guy looks like a killer only to be killed 2 minutes later, and then like, hey, wink at the camera, he's Stu's nephew. Like, that one was kind of, and it's never talked about again. It's never referenced again. It's literally that 15-minute slice of movie that he's in, and that's that.
If that, dude, he's got like a total like 3-minute screen time in the whole movie.
Yeah.
I was like, this is fucking, and his death sucked. He got stabbed in the neck quick, and then they like cut. I was like,
right. And the West kid getting stabbed in the neck was like a great brutal kill.
Yeah. If they didn't add that Vince character, I feel like their death scenes would have been more, because no one dies before them except for that Vince guy. He's the only one, right?
Yeah,
so like, it would have been so much more impactful, more tense. They could have done more with those two characters being killed if they just didn't kill that random dude that's just like a douchey, sketchy guy for no reason. I did not like that. I felt it kind of took away from any character development that the other characters could have had.
Yeah,
you know, I would have preferred another scene with Dewey, honestly.
It really slowed the momentum. It really, and it took a little bit of time to get it back. Yeah,
and I have. Do you have any other dislikes? Do you have anything?
There's a few that I put on a list.
I know you like the movie about 85%. There's not much you didn't like about it.
The one biggest dislike I will say, and yes, there's precedent for it in previous Scream movies, but again, spoiler alert, the big surprise is that Skeet Ulrich is back as the dark passenger, I guess you can. He definitely is a dark passenger character in this film.
100%.
He visits his illegitimate daughter in visions. You know, he pops up in the backseat of her car, and he is very poorly de-aged through some very wonky technology. He looks almost like a Snapchat filter. And he is wearing the outfit that he was in the day that he died. He looks exactly like he does at the end of the first Scream movie. Yeah. And to me, I understand as an audience, that's what we're most familiar with, and that's how Billy would look to us. But for a girl that never met her father, how does he appear to her in that particular of a form, A? And B, why the hell is he there in the first place? Scream isn't really a movie about ghosts and supernatural and hauntings and things like that. So to me, I mean, I know in Scream 3, you know, Sydney kind of sees the ghost of her mom a few times.
And shit, yeah.
Right, but you kind of take that more as like Sydney just can't cope with all this shit that has happened to her. Whereas you don't really get that impression from this new girl because you don't know her. So the dark passenger, Billy Loomis, just kind of, I mean, I loved seeing it. I thought it was cool to see Skeet back in Scream, but it could have been done better, I think. And that was my biggest gripe with the movie.
Yeah, my issue with it was they showed it too. Like, it would have been cool if it was like once or twice, but they did it like 4 or 5 times, and I was like, all right. It was because when he first popped up, I was like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. I think I leaned over to you. I was like, oh shit, that's cool that he's like, they got someone back from the original Scream, like one of the killers back, and then. I do agree. It looked like they did some sort of like makeup on him to like smooth out his skin and did something else. That didn't really bother me too much. More so just how much they showed him.
Yeah,
I was not.
They leaned on it a little too much as a plot crutch for to kind of show that Sam is going through things. And like we know she's going through things. People are dying around her. We don't need to see Billy Loomis every time she's alone, you know? And it kind of was every time she was alone.
Yeah.
He popped up.
She had to like get all stressed out and pop pills every time he popped up and scream. It did get a little like redundant. That's why I said if it would have happened like once or twice,
right? Like to that point, if it only happened in the Mocker house at the end, that would have felt thematically better because Billy died in that house.
Yeah.
So for him to pop up there as a ghost would have felt much more natural because he's dead. He never left that house, you know?
I like
that. That would have worked a lot more naturally than being in her rearview mirror as she was driving and you know, joking with her and all that kind of like this, you know, the sarcastic jokes. It felt a little flat.
Did you like that she was his daughter? Like
I thought that was cool. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that didn't bother me too much.
You can't really be bothered by that because you have a franchise that introduced a half-brother 3 movies into it out of nowhere. So in the world of Scream, these people just get around and fuck a lot. I mean, that's really what you got to get from it.
Yeah, dude. Like I said, I was thinking about it at first. I was like, it didn't bother me. Like, I thought it was kind of cool how our new lead character is related to the villain or the killer of the first.
Right. Our new protagonist is related to the main antagonist who started all this.
Yeah. So I do like how they were able to kind of connect it to the first movie in a I guess not in a subtle way, but connect it in a plausible way because you know. Sidney wasn't giving Billy some, if you remember in that first movie.
Right,
my man wanted to get some, and she was not with it at the time.
She had the electric underwear on.
Yeah, my dude. My dude was probably
scary movie.
That's scary movie. My dude was probably going to some other, you know, ladies and doing
very obviously he was.
So it makes sense that he would be, you know, he was a killer. So him being a dirtbag.
Right. You're not surprised.
Let's you know what, with that whole reveal of her being related to Billy, let's go into the killer reveal.
Yeah.
Now this can kind of play into a dislike and a like. It didn't bother me. I thought the two was Jack Quaid. What's his character's name in the movie? Richie, I think is what it was.
Richie, yeah.
And the other girl, Amber. They were good. It was a good reveal. I like their motive. About they're basically toxic fans of the Stab franchise.
You know, in an era where Warner Brothers can't post a single thing on their Instagram without fans demanding that Zack Snyder's movies continue. I mean, we're in an era of toxic fans, and this movie played into those toxic fans that think that their version and their way is the only way, and anything that deviates from that is terrible. I mean, obviously they were psychotic to boot, but I liked the motive. I really liked the motive.
Yeah, and they just wanted it to be. They wanted the movies to be like the original.
What they thought they should be.
First 3 is what they said, if I remember correctly.
Right, yeah, which, you know, you could say is indicative of the franchise itself, which very clearly they did on purpose.
Yeah, that's a wink to the audience right there. But I do like their motive. I did like that. I had a feeling he was gonna be the killer. I didn't know who the second one. I called it early. I was like, he's the fucking killer, I think.
I gotta say, I was surprised. I knew the little Amber girl at some point. That actress just kind of plays unhinged well. You know, she's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as a Manson girl, so you know she just plays that like crazy character well.
I should have picked up on that because in that movie they light her up in flame. Remember Leo?
Just like they do in this. They set her ass on fire.
That fucking hand sanitizer apparently is very flammable because she gets fucking covered in hand sanitizer.
Really,
and lit up
really a cool scene. A cool scene.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that Quaid's kid Richie was the killer. It happens very suddenly in the movie. You know, they're like trying to escape the house, and he tells her, "Oh, I'm glad you're okay," and then knifes her. And I thought that was a really cool. And it was like, again, right by the door on their way out, just like the Billy Loomis reveal in the original.
And then the other girl, the Amber girl, shoots the one girl with like the red or pink hair.
Mackenzie girl. The Mackenzie girl
shoots her right in the head, like revealing it in front of her. She's like, "I'm the killer." Boom, and that's it. So they're very unhinged and kind of crazy, the two of them. So it does work how they're not as subtle, about being the killers. And I even like that when Gail and Sydney arrive at the house, the Amber character rushes out pretending to be injured, and they know they've
been through it enough
so many times that they're like, it's a trap. Yeah, it's a trap. Like they knew, and then she reveals right away, just starts shooting at them. So I do like that. It worked very well. My only issue with her being the killer is that for some reason, anytime, like the actress that plays that Amber character is a very small woman.
Right.
It's a small girl. You can tell she's petite. She's tiny. Why is it that when the Ghostface costume goes on, it's like 6'1",
big, huge male,
and could like fight a like grown man?
And so you said before that when Dewey dies, one of the other killers is there. So Richie is in that scene as Richie. So it's very clear that under the Ghostface mask, it's that little tiny girl that kills Dewey.
Yeah,
and she's the same size as Arquette under the robe and everything.
Yeah, it's weird.
It in that sense, I guess, you chalk it up to adrenaline and all that kind of stuff. You can kind of do whatever when you're, feeling anger or whatever the hell you want to say. But it was a little wonky that she was that tiny and tossing people around and murdering them like that.
It's not even about her strength. It's more so like that she grew an extra foot when the costume. Yeah. I was like, wait a second. Ghostface was just like 6 feet. Now Ghostface should be like 5'2", 5'3" in reality. I guess that would have revealed who the killer was. But still,
absolutely.
Just an odd, choice in executing that. For that, just make the Ghostface a little shorter. So one taller, one shorter. It just
do kills that didn't necessarily rely on brute strength,
Yeah, it's not so much that she put up a fight. It's just like the height change and weight change of the killer. It just didn't line up. But I guess you could say that about all the movies.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Emma Roberts is a tiny person in Scream 4, and so is the Culkin kid too.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, and this is not to go on a tirade of Part 4. I'm not a fan. That's probably my least favorite of all of them. And we're gonna go into our rankings of the overall series in a minute.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like in that movie they hit it a little better. In this one, it's just like, hey, there's no way that little shorter person is in the Ghostface costume. It makes no sense. And I thought about that afterwards. I was like, she even says she's the one that killed Dewey, and I'm like not to deny that she's strong, but just physics. It made no sense.
From a purely aesthetic standpoint, it doesn't match.
It doesn't make any sense. But hey, whatever. Again, it's a silly slasher horror film. I can't get.
Well, I want to hear your ranking now. I want to hear.
All right, let's go into our rankings.
Let's break this down. We got 5 Scream movies to break down.
We got I'll go first, and then we'll jump to your ranking. So this is my ranking of the Scream films so far. So it's 1, 2, 5, 3, and 4. When I was really thinking about it afterwards, because I think we talked about it briefly last night.
Yeah.
I did enjoy this more than 3.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little more grounded when it came, like grounded as a film, which I prefer personally in my movies, like grounded shit. But comparing it to the third one when they're in Hollywood, and I love that they're in Hollywood and shit. I thought that's like a cool just backdrop and a place to set it. But I did enjoy this one more than 3, and I definitely enjoyed it more than fucking 4. Dude, I recently revisited all the first 4 films, and I had only seen the 4th one maybe once before, and that was in the theater, maybe twice, but it had been years. And I rewatched 3 and 4 back to back because that was the order. Like I had like one night I watched 1 and 2, the other night I watched 3 and 4, and I was like, wow, I had more fun watching 3 this time around because I hadn't seen that one in a while either. Than the 4th one.
Yeah.
The 4th one just fell flat for me. I was just like, oh.
You know what, though? I think the thing at the time the 4th one came out, it was 2011. It had been over a decade between Scream movies. So people were just excited to get another Scream movie at the time, And so we accepted kind of a lower class Scream movie for what it was, you know? It was just the first Scream movie in a decade, and then there's, you know, another decade passed.
Yeah, another.
Now there's another Scream
years.
movie. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. So what's your ranking? Let's hear your ranking.
All right, so there's nothing is gonna ever top the original 1986 Scream. So that's obviously number one. But for me, I'm gonna place this new one at number two.
Oh my!
I think that I really for me it hit everything that I wanted it to. And yes, I've had some gripes that I talked about, but I think that it was just well done, and I really enjoyed it. And then Scream 2. Scream 3, Scream 4.
Wow, so Scream 2 is towards the bottom.
It's right in the middle of the pack.
Well, I guess in the middle. It's in the middle. You like 3 more than 2?
No, 2 then 3.
Okay, so it's 1, 5...
2, 3, 4.
3, and 4. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 4 is at the bottom of everybody's list. Even more so now with this new one, it's definitely at the bottom.
I don't know,
list.
dude. I see that 4th movie getting a lot of love on like Twitter. And
I don't understand how. It's
so
there's
again,
no good characters in it. It's nobody's likable. Even Sydney sucks in that movie.
Yeah, I like the Hayden. I can't pronounce her last name.
Yeah,
I can't pronounce it, but
Hayden Panera Bread.
The girl from Heroes. I liked her character a lot, and she was good in Scream 4. But yeah, I definitely think this one is way better than.
Oh, absolutely, and it's definitely one I'm going to watch again. Like we said, there's tons of stuff to look for on rewatches where I never felt that way about Scream 4.
I totally agree, and honestly, I'm looking forward to watching it again. I woke up this morning and I was like, you know what? I've got to watch this again when it gets released on streaming or Vudu or rental or whatever. It needs another watch for me so I can fully gauge how I feel about it. But upon first viewing, I definitely enjoyed myself. It was a fun time at the movies, and it was a fun and entertaining Scream movie.
It was a good way to start 2022 for horror movies, I think.
Totally agree.
Define things.
Things like a guy named Billy Loomis and his friend carved up a bunch of high school kids while wearing this Halloween ghost mask. And every decade or so, some idiot gets the bright idea to put on the mask, kill his friends, and get famous too. The last time it happened was in 2011.
And I gotta make sure we don't get sliced up by some lunatic who saw Friday the 13th and thought, you know what? That Jason guy, he's got some pretty solid ideas.
So that was Scream 2022. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Haunted Hangover. And if you can rate and review us, that'd be greatly appreciated. And remember, the best cure for a hangover is...
more booze.
Catch you guys later.